From my tiny Brooklyn apartment, I transport friends and family to unexplored worlds, exotic adventures, and trips down the highways and byways of yesteryear. How can I accomplish such a feat on a minimal budget? Through the magic of an over-the-top tabletop. Take a great story, mix in a scoop of old Hollywood glamour, a heaping cup of larger-than-life personality, and a dash of playful wickedness. And what do you get? Today we're paying tribute to that #1 fashion icon of them all, Miss Cruella DeVil.
Anita, darling.
Anita, darling.
Anita, darling. My darling.
Anita, darling. Tonight I'm having a few friends over to watch the new Disney movie Cruella. What a perfect subject to create an over-the-top tabletop with that theme. I had a great time putting this together, but first, well, let's talk about Cruella herself, shall we? Let me just say, I adore dogs, cats, and animals of all sorts. I have 2 doggies of my own. This is Robert. And this is Jason. So before you start sending me hate mail and ask how a dog lover like me could even think about doing a themed tribute table with someone like her in mind, let's look below the surface of that seemingly villainous, chain-smoking fashion icon. Let's look down deep into her very soul. The character of Cruella DeVil was created by an author named Dodie Smith in her 1956 novel, 101 Dalmatians. Now, who was this Dodie Smith, and how could she ever dream up such an evil, wretched character who could conjure such cruelty to sweet, innocent spotted puppies? Well, Cruella's nature was the furthest thing from Dodie Smith's. Miss Smith was inspired to write this novel by her and her husband's great love for their dogs, especially loving Dalmatians. Her and her husband, Mr. Beasley, actually had many Dalmatians through the years, and at one given point, they were parents to 9 of the spotted little fur babies. Their first one was named Pongo. Sound familiar? Now, of course, her story needed an antagonist, and what could be more cruel than a villain who hated dogs? In fact, she would be considered so cruel by Dodie that she actually named the character Cruella. Cruella's images were illustrated in the original novel by 2 famed British artists that so happened to be sisters, Jane and Anne Graham Johnstone. Fast forward a few years, and Walt Disney purchased the film rights and began a production on the adaptation of Smith's book. The movie was also called 101 Dalmatians, which became Disney's 17th full-length animated feature, released in 1961. Now, someone had the very difficult job of bringing to life the character of Cruella DeVil from the pages of Dodie Smith's book. One of Walt Disney's inner circle, that's affectionately called the 9 Old Men, was tapped for this task by Walt himself. The legendary Mark Davis was the sole animator of Cruella. Now, during interviews, Mark Davis claimed that his version of Cruella was partially inspired by a combination of Bette Davis, Rosalind Russell, and Tallulah Bankhead. Now, by the way, each of those actresses were also huge dog lovers and were noted for their affection, advocacy, and philanthropy to animals, in particular dogs, throughout their lives. Now, with some of Hollywood's reigning royalty as inspiration, Mr. Davis put pencil to paper with a live model as his guide. The model they hired for Cruella was none other than the character actress Mary Wickes. You may know her as the busybody Emma from White Christmas, Sister Mary Lazarus in Sister Act, the voice of the gargoyle Laverne in Disney's Hunchback of Notre Dame, or from one of the hundreds of other character roles she played throughout her career. Miss Wickes was also a noted dog lover and regularly advocated for animals. The popularity and love for this story and its characters found their way into our hearts and minds worldwide, and Cruella became one of the most beloved, yet hated and feared villains of all times. Through the generations, her popularity has grown even more, and she's a must-see villain nowadays, Whether you're in the Disney theme parks, you watch their films, on TV, the sequels of sequels, the remakes, and inspiration worldwide. Now back to where we left off, talking about Cruella's soul. We must remember the women who created her, the women who inspired her, the man who brought her most famous image to life, and all the women who have portrayed her since.
What fun that is!
Are all avid doggy fans and parents, and so am I. So today, our Cruella is just going to be an eccentric, glamorous fashionista with a flair for the extreme, a touch over the top, and an enduring love of Dalmatians. Now let's get to work on this over-the-top tabletop. So when we're going to do an over-the-top tabletop about Cruella DeVil, where do we start? Well, here's my journey. Putting together an over-the-top tabletop always starts with inspiration. Now we have that in spades for this theme. Now, what is our color palette going to be? Well, duh. For this one, we have a black and white, mostly in spots, and some splashes of red. Next, I have to think about what do I already have that I can put to use for this particular theme. So I take a wide-eyed tour around my house. I have to look with fresh eyes because you never know where you will find that perfect piece. Now as for me, I happen to have a props department to dive into. Yeah, that's what I call my storage unit. But anyway, perhaps you have some place that you store your treasures. Look there. Something is bound to jump out at you. Then make your list of all other needed items. Now here's my philosophy for that.
Alright. Now I'm gonna call you on Monday. Okay. We're gonna go shopping. Anything we can't buy, we'll make. Anything we can't make, we'll steal.
Thanks for the advice, Patsy and Loretta. So I started with upcycling a few items, like these glasses, these miniature spotted nosegays, adding some feathers to this nightcap, repurposed these shoes for a vase. Now the magic really begins. Start with a black tablecloth, and I add some focal points, like for her vanity, for example. And then I layered it on piece by piece to unveil the story. Now it looks like in this situation we'll be dining tonight off of Cruella's private vanity. I don't see her around at the moment, but there are some nifty trinkets and clues around showing that she could show up back to her lair at any given moment. Meanwhile, I set the table, fold the napkins in a cute little doggy pattern, crown the silverware with these paw print napkin rings. They also double for a nice little dog collar. And I drop some straws, lit the candles, and lo and behold, a table fit for a queen. Well, that wraps up another episode of Over the Top Tabletop. Thanks for joining me today. I would be remiss if I didn't say that Dalmatians are loving. They're sweet animals and can be the perfect fit in some families. But when adopting any pet, make sure you do your research and talk with others who have experience with the breed you're considering. And understand that the environment and dynamics you have to offer, and decide what breed works best for you as a pet in your home. Remember, when you adopt them for the rest of their life, and you will love them for the rest of yours. Thanks again for joining me today. Please join me in additional projects and invite your friends to join us too. The more, the merrier. There are links below, including the Over-the-Top Tabletop 101 and Essential Guide to the Basics. Remember, an Over-the-Top Tabletop project is a contest. Who has the most fun, your guests or you dreaming it up and putting it together? See you next time. Meanwhile, make something beautiful today and make beautiful memories for tomorrow. God bless.
Well, it was the most fun I think I've ever had in doing anything.
Do you understand?
I loved her. I thought she was wonderful, frankly. I thought she was just marvelous.
She's flawless. She's a magnificent villain.
I think she's obviously the GOAT, but I also just love the cartoon for a really long time.
If this doesn't scare you, no evil thing will.